Hey folks, Chris Kramer with Bill Kramer GM. And the best place to listen to the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey is inside a brand new vehicle from Bill Kramer GM. And I want you to know we've got 10 times the amount of inventory on the ground as we did this time last year, and darn near all of them are discounted. So shop us online at BillKramerGM.com or visit us the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd. We'll make it easy and take great care of you.
Rough riding penalties come out of the weekend in Nashville. I'm Kyle Rickey. That story next on NASCAR Hot Pass.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Jeff Gordon wins the Daytona 500.
Jeff Gordon's rise to one of NASCAR's all-time greatest drivers was one like no other. Relive Jeff Gordon's journey to the NASCAR Hall of Fame with the exclusive MRN podcast, Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career. 93 Cup Series wins, 5 Cup Series championships, and 3 Daytona 500 victories. A career rivaled by few others. Check out MRN's Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career on podcast platforms and MRN.com.
Multiple rough riding penalties were handed down to drivers over the weekend at the Nashville Superspeedway. In Friday night's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race, Lane Riggs was handed a 2-lap penalty following mid-race contact with Stephen Parsons. Riggs ended up 25th at the finish. And yesterday it was announced by NASCAR that Cup Series rookie Carson Hocevar was fined $50,000 and 25 driver points after an incident in the closing laps of Sunday's Ally 400, when Hocevar made contact and ultimately spun Harrison Burton under caution. Hocevar now falls to 26th in the championship standings, heading to the Chicago street race this weekend. For more, see MRN.com. I'm Kyle Rickey. This is NASCAR Hot Pass on the Motor Racing Network.
WGSX Lynn WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Let's go.
The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air.
How are you not freaking out right now?
Good to the last drop flavor.
There's no need to fear.
The Underdogs are here. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Are live from the doghouse, and this is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Tyler is calculating up his 2023 Big Ten predictions, and by the head nod, looks like you did pretty well.
I'm thinking my Big Ten predictions may be the best overall. Like, compare them from the ACC, SEC, and stuff from last week. I think I nailed a lot of these.
Yeah, no doubt. There it is, my man. It's tough to talk when you're hearing yourself just a little bit behind, but it's like you're just constantly thinking of what you just said instead of what you're saying in the future. But yeah, that's pretty good stuff. I did decent in the Big Ten last year. A lot of teams I was one off on. But I got Ohio State at 11-1. I was wrong on Michigan. I had Michigan at 11-1, losing one to Penn State last year. But of course, the Wolverines ran the table. They've got a tough schedule. Looking at the Big Ten for this year, the Wolverines have a very tough schedule with the new, updated, and bigger Big Ten.
Yeah, no, the big game against Texas early on out of conference obviously only adds to that. But I was only off by more than 2 games on 2 teams from the Big Ten. Everybody else was either spot on or like within 1 or 2 games.
Hey, there you go.
But Michigan, they've got a tough schedule. Getting both the big, 2 of the bigger hitters coming in Washington and Oregon, still getting Ohio State, got Texas early on. And then you get some of those games like, at Indiana, which always kind of seems to be a weird place to play, or Northwestern is one of those teams that really exceeded expectations last year.
What'd you have Northwestern going last year?
2-10.
I had them going somehow I had them going 1-10, but 1-11, I'm sure.
Or 2-10, whatever. But
I had them,
8-5.
8-5 for Northwestern. If you're wondering why we're talking so much Big Ten, it is Big Ten Prediction Day here for Tangent Tuesday with Tyler Bishop.
How did he not win Big Ten Coach of the Year? I mean, I know Harbaugh win undefeated, but like, how did he not? Did he?
Harbaugh should have been if he was coach of the year.
Yeah,
didn't they have that like scandalous like preseason? Wasn't it this year?
Yeah,
they
Fitzgerald
had some
got
trouble?
fired like this time last year, and then this guy
that's the
took
reason
over.
Which is
why.
wild, though, right? Like with how all of that played out, and to be right on the cusp of the season. I believe were they not in Ireland to start the year out last year, or was that the year prior?
I think that was the year prior because it was Notre Dame Navy last year.
Yeah, because Northwestern opened up with Rutgers.
Okay, no, he did.
last
He
year.
did win the Coach of the Year.
There you go. So that makes
at least from Fox Sports. Okay, that made me feel a little bit better. I was like, how could he not at that? I mean, going 8-5 after they won like 4-8, I think the year before.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was gonna go through or I was gonna ask you which from 2003, which team was the most surprising to you? Because that's absolutely my answer. Like to sit there and be like 1-10.
How could it not be your answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember how it was playing out last year because when you lose a coach like that,
and Pat Fitzgerald was Northwestern.
He was Northwestern, right?
He was an alumni, a former player. Like had some great years for Northwestern at Northwestern. You know,
yeah.
And then for him to, and I know everything around his thing, like getting fired and all that stuff. I don't know if the legal issue ever got settled with all that. That's not my concern really. But like for him to get fired would be, I mean, it'd be like Joe Paul getting fired, or I mean, I know, but
history does repeat itself.
I just mean like before the downfall, like Bobby Bowden getting fired before his downfall, like it was
Nick
almost
Saban getting fired rather than retiring.
Exactly, like it was almost. I mean, obviously he didn't have the same success as those guys, but like for a guy being it'd be like Kirk Ferentz maybe getting fired now. I mean.
Do you think that's a possibility? What did Iowa go last year? They were 10-2. That's right. They were the representative from the bad side of the conference.
10-2.
Did you have that one? I had them at 7-5.
If you're gonna how can you fire him now though? Like, shouldn't you have done it like with cause when his son was there OCing?
I don't think that this is a fireable year for Iowa. Plus,
that's what I'm saying.
I think if you're not on the hot seat this year and you're a second or third tier team in the Big Ten. I think with Oregon and, man, I really don't even know now who are the top two teams going into the Big Ten because I don't know. I don't have much faith in UCLA. I don't have very much faith at all in USC except for when teams are traveling over there to the West.
Because, I was going to say Ames. Isn't that the place where usually Big Ten hopes and dreams usually die? Yeah, against Iowa, like going at home,
yeah, no doubt. Iowa State used to be a wrecker. Obviously, they're not in the Big Ten, but they would wreck people's seasons. And this year there's no divisions, so you're not going to have a situation like last year. We would have ran it back with Michigan and Ohio State. And
their schedule sets up nice again this year too for Iowa. Like for not having divisions, it looks like a schedule that was kind of formed with the divisions if you're looking at it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we're going to be diving into this a little bit deeper, so I guess we won't spew too much of our ammo. We don't have your Minute with Max again. I think he's still up there in Chicagoland.
Big Ten country.
I don't know when we're going to have him back. I think we got to... When he does arrive back in Panama City, I think we have to give him as many weeks off here as he took off for vacation. You agree with that, Caveman Rick?
No. We enjoy wild card delight in here on Tuesdays, man. It's hot.
Rick's like let him make up all his minutes in one show, just the Max Delight show.
All right, so instead of missing out on the next three shows, he has to do the next show that he does from 4 to 6.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, Vicky, you heard it here first. You got to let that happen. That is Max's wife. A lot of great games to get into with the Big Ten. Hope all of y'all are doing well. Trade deadline I felt like was a little bit more interesting yesterday than what it's been today. Has there been any moves to you, Caveman Rick, that have been standing out?
No, actually, I think it's been kind of status quo. There hasn't really had any big movement, if you will. I kind of figured there might have been a little bit more, and we haven't really seen it.
Yeah, so the Padres got Tanner Scott, closer for the Marlins, just a little bit ago. I think that was about 30 minutes ago. Trevor Richards. I mean, a lot of names that you don't necessarily...
You guys got George Soler.
Yeah, we got Jorge Soler, solar power, back to the Braves. I like the move. I mean, I don't think that it's a move that's like.
Can I ask you this real quick? Yeah, before you go into it, like, do you think it's really a move worth doing it, or do you think AA was just doing it to do something because he really hasn't done anything yet, and it's kind of like make it look like you're doing something when you're kind of not?
Well, I think the questions that needed to be answered for the Atlanta Braves, well, now you have to add rotation into that mix. And I think the starting rotation has been something, it's been a great spot for the Braves, but it's also been with Spencer Strider out, now Reynaldo Lopez out. It's been at the forefront of AA's mind, I would say. I don't think that this is necessarily a move that moves the needle. However, I'll say this. I think for Alex Anthopoulos, it was... we needed power back in the lineup. We've got guys who produce power, but maybe having Jorge Soler back in the lineup will reignite things for the Atlanta Braves. That's the only thing that I can hope for. Let's go to the people's caller here. Michigan Eddie, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What do you got for us?
Go Blue Truck Series. We're going to back to calling live to you from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Hey, there we go.
Calling live. Latest intel live from 97.1 The Ticket out of Detroit says Flaherty might become a Dodger.
Oh, okay.
Jack Flaherty. And we were supposed to see him pitch last night, but the trade deadline deal, we had a minor league lineup last night where we had two guys make their major league debuts, didn't see Flaherty pitch, and we had a bullpen day for the second day in a row. What is this bullpen day crap? Can you tell me?
That
was never a thing when I was growing up. Now, we have one a week. Now we had two in a row because of the trade deadline deal, and the Tigers got blown out 8-4. The score was closer than what it really was, and it was terrible. But it was great to see my Tigers, little Ed and I see our Tigers play ball and all that.
I feel you, Michigan Eddie. Last night, my Phillies had one last night going against the New York Yankees. Once that game got out of control, you just no bullpen, you just go to positional players, give those guys the night off, and move on to the next game, basically, man.
Yeah, it's something that actually grinds my gears as well, Michigan Eddie, but it's one of those things where you're kind of in between starts for your fifth man in the rotation, so you throw one out, or you just recently had an injury, or if you're the Tigers and you have some guys that might be dealt, you don't want to risk the injury for them. Braves had a bullpen game last night. Grant Holmes, I was on the air yesterday saying, man, I'm not excited about this. Kid comes out and just set the Brewers up and then set them down. And then the rest of the bullpen, they did their thing and lost to the Brewers 8-3 last night.
Yeah. For you. Not the bullpen, but I just land, I'm kind of talking about Ozark 30 yesterday for Eddie's showcase up here at U of M. And so we get in, get around the car, turn on to 97.1, The Ticket. That's our version of ESPN up here, right? And within 15 minutes, I just want to throw my radio. I want to go office space on my rental car radio. Because they're saying trade Scooble and all that. I'm like, don't you guys learn from the Verlander trade? They go, we get a lot of prospects and all that. But name me one prospect from that Verlander trade that's playing right now for the Tigers. None.
Right.
None. I think two aren't even playing in the MLB anymore.
I
know what I'm saying?
I do not.
And then you can't always Jared Goff it. And Matt Stafford deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an anomaly, especially when you're talking about quarterback for quarterback and all the success that we saw throughout the career, and go back to the collegiate career for Matt Stafford and the toughness and really the epitome of the city of Detroit to some extent. But yeah, for Jared Goff to come in and do what he's done, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Dan Campbell as well for putting the right players around him, and also putting him in an offense that works out well for Jared Goff.
Yeah. That Lions Stafford trade was a 1 in a million thing. We got it right. But, they're begging on all these prospects. And why don't you just keep Scooble, the best pitcher in baseball? You got Riley Green. You just got to find some bats. Pitching staff is fine, and it's going to come. We're supposed to have one of the best farm systems in baseball. Just have patience, man. Don't be like college fans and want your head coach out in 3 years because they didn't win you a natty or make it to the CFP.
Yeah, everybody needs to be like the Yankees. Look how long they've had Boone holding on over there as the manager. But I agree with you, man. If you already have the best farm system, or one of the best farm systems, then what's the point in trading one of your best pieces, which I believe that he's got 3 more years of team control as well. If it's not 3, it's 2. So I would hold on to Scooble. Flaherty, all right, that's one that he's somewhat replaceable to an extent. So So
and he's on a 1-year deal, so he can sign somewhere else. So you might as well get some for him this year if he doesn't commit to being a long-term Tiger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So. And what is it? Maybe 2 years now, maybe 3 years that we've been talking about the Tigers maybe being able to turn that corner, and it hasn't happened yet. But I'm right there with you. Patience is a virtue, and I think baseball would benefit from the Tigers kind of getting back into the thick of things.
Well, we're one of the original, and here's the thing. I mean, you build it, and they'll win that World Series again. You know, you build, but if you keep on trading away our best players go, I mean, let them go, trade them away, what have you, however they do it, you're never going to get better, and you're going to be better. You're going to be in that perpetual ever rebuilding stage like the Lions were forever, and how the Pistons still are. And the Red Wings are about to make that playoff hump finally. You know what I mean? With Stevie Y at the helm of being our GM.
Yeah.
So, here's the thing. Chris Ilitch needs to manage the Tigers like his dad did Mr. I. Mr. I loved the Red Wings. His first love was pizza, Little Caesars. Then it was the Red Wings, and then Little Tigers, because he once was a farm team in the Tigers, the founder of Little Caesars, Mr. Ilitch. You know? Chris, you need to love the Tigers like your old man did. Love the Red Wings and the Tigers the same. Because there's a lot of people in Detroit that think you don't give a crap about the Tigers, just the Wings and your entertainment ventures. Because they also deal with Motor City Casino, too, up here, you know? They had their hands dabbled in a whole bunch of stuff. But you know what I'm saying? So be like your dad, Chris. And he's a Michigan grad, too. Go Blue, babe.
Pizza.
Go ahead.
Pizza.
Pizza. Oh, by the way, Detroit is the capital of pizza, by the way. Hungry Howie's, Michigan. Domino's, Michigan. Little Caesars, Michigan. Jets, Michigan. I'm just saying.
If you're really looking for a pie, though, if you're really wanting like a good piece of pizza, are those the places that you're going to get a good piece of pizza?
Actually, Domino's is much better. It used to be crap.
Now, I'll give you that.
I'll be honest with you.
The improvement of them, but...
Well, actually, Domino's, I would. Little Caesars, I would now. Back in the day, no, I would set up for a Pizza Hut thing. And also, if you come to Ann Arbor, in the Detroit area, dude, you got Cottage Inn Pizza, where the Michigan students, I just went and walked while I was playing baseball, walked to the local Cottage Inn Pizza joint, got myself a large pie and eat. And it was scrumdiddlyocious, bro.
I bet you were ecstatic, excited as all get out whenever you saw that Lil Eddie was going to be playing up there in Michigan.
Well, he got the invite, so we signed him up, and it's for high schoolers only. I'm like, well, he's only in 8th grade, so can he still come or not? Because here's the thing. People kind of say, why are you sending all these showcases and stuff? I'm like, well, you don't get the exposure up in the Panhandle, let's be honest. So we got to travel out of state, go down to South Florida, go to Orlando, whatever, to have him play with like talent and competition and all that. And to get him seen by these bigger coaches. And the quicker you get him on the radar early on as an 8th, 9th grader, then they'll follow you. No. Is he going to get recruited this weekend? No. Is he going to get offered this weekend? No. But he might get on the radar, and they might be doing intel on Eddie from afar while he's in 8th, 9th grade on his way up. And then when he is eligible to be recruited, we might get that phone call. And that's why we do it. We got to make Eddie better and get him. And all my kids, you got to make them better and give them every opportunity to succeed. And I'm glad my kids ain't in front of the couch, in front of a bunch of screens, playing Fortnite and all that crap. They're out there being active and playing sports and doing good in school and all that. I'm very thankful to the Lord for that. How I was a kid, we were always outside playing. We were very rarely inside playing ColecoVision or the old Nintendo. What say you?
I was definitely not
and they love the Lord.
But yeah, I mean, I totally understand that. It's tough with the being noticed in the Panhandle. Baseball in general is a very hard sport to kind of get noticed really anywhere that you're at to some extent. But I mean, we do got a couple of guys playing up there in the show. So
yeah. Wait. Well, here's the thing. So we were at the 13U National Showcase, a perfect game, right, at West Palm Beach last weekend, right? And guess who was there? So my buddy comes up. Our kids play ball together for a showcase. And he goes, "Hey, do you want me to introduce you to Jason Kidd?" I'm like, "Jason Kidd? You mean the basketball player?" He's like, "Yeah." Yeah, he plays a coach. He goes, "Yeah, the coach," and he's like, "Yeah, I can introduce him because he plays on the national team with June. Cause that's my buddy's son's name. Because then he plays on the feeder team, and June plays for the national team, right?" And I'm like, "No, man, I'm not a Maverick fan. He's a good player. I respect him, but I don't want to go out." I was like, if I want to meet Mickey Cabrera when he was at Publix at Beast of the East, I'm sure as crap ain't gonna go see Jason Kidd. But I walked right by him the second day, bro. I had my Michigan gear on, and he just kind of gave me that look and gave me that hand, the head nod. You know, like, who's this crazy because I was down. Like, it was hot, man. So I was using my jersey as like, I was in the Middle East again. So, but his son was actually playing with little Eddie on another team, 13U, down there. Chance Kid is his name.
How about that? How about that?
I mean, it's amazing to you see Mickey Cabrera. I saw him this year, right? I saw Jason Kidd. It's just amazing how many of these. And you know what? They're awesome dudes. Just being parents, chilled out. No one bothers them. No paparazzi. It's really cool to see the people. The baseball etiquette. I'll tell you, baseball etiquette among parents and stuff is very, very good compared to other sports, man. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's very good.
I do have to agree with you on that, man. I wonder why that is, too, because the other sports, maybe it's because the other sports are a little bit more fast-paced. How about soccer parents? I haven't been around a lot of those youth
they're
events.
bad.
They're
bad. They're terrible. I had some experience with Eris when she was playing in high school in the Panhandle. Some of the parents were bad.
That would be a fun poll to run.
And when she was playing club out in Louisiana, and you got some pretty riled up club soccer parents, man. You do.
Rank the worst parents by sport. Let's go football, basketball, baseball, soccer.
I would say soccer. Then I would probably say football. Those are the tours. Because I've seen fights break out at football games, racial slurs going on at football games. You got people fighting, cops being called at the summer football games Eddie was a part of. I was right there on it because our team was playing on one field. On the next field, the other team was playing, and people are cussing, yelling, all that. That's why soccer and football parents can be the worst. Not saying all of them now.
Yeah, no.
Those that minor, yeah. But I mean, some of them. It's the minority that makes the majority look bad, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the small population of those parents that can't get a grip, that. Now, granted, I've been kicked out of games when I was a coach, mind you, but I was a coach and I was sticked up at the refs, so I was defending my kids. But anyway, that's another story. But, I would go soccer, football, same. And then what you say, basketball, I don't really know. Basketball seems okay. And I'll say... what's you have 5 of them or 4?
Baseball was the final
baseball
one.
is number 1. Yeah, baseball, basketball, tied, football. There's no in between, man. There's no in between.
But there's always.
Hey, don't at me either. If you disagree with me, I am the people's caller. I speak the truth.
Why can't
and
they
you know
answer?
I'm right.
They find you on Instagram and hit you with a message or something.
Yeah, at ECUMFC 2012.
There you
at
go.
Instagram.
There you go. And then while you're there, check out some of the memorabilia that he carries as well.
That's on eBay. That's named after
eBay.
Alexa, my Florida Gator. At Alexa Madeline 06 and Alexa with a KS, not X. Not like Apple, whatever. I'm still a Droid guy, by the way, just saying.
Oh, man, we need to get you upgraded. But Michigan Eddie, we are out of time. Thanks so much for the call, calling all the way from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Ann Arbor, Michigan, baby. Going to Zingerman's Deli, baby. Already had cottage in, Gold Blue Trucks here. God bless you, brother. The Lord's coming. Save yourself, man. Read the word. I'm out. See ya.
There we go.
Later, Eddie.
Michigan Eddie, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to take that break. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Hey, send a text in. Which is the worst which sport has the worst parents at the events? 850-215-6290.
ESPN Northwest Florida is your home for college football and the Auburn Tigers.
He dives! He's in! Touchdown Auburn!
We heard you, Tiger fans. So this season, we're airing every single game. And you can take that to the bank.
It's picked off in the end zone!
Plus, the biggest games in the SEC and around the country play here on your official station for college football, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Tuesday's weather forecast. A mixture of some clouds and likely thunderstorms the rest of the day with temps near 91 and a wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight and a temperature of 80. About the same tomorrow, around 90 with a mixture of some sun and a possibility of thunderstorms. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
You owe the IRS back taxes, and dealing with the IRS stresses you out. Fortunately, IRS Problem Relief can help you resolve back taxes and represent you to the IRS so you don't have to face them alone. Last year, IRS Problem Relief saved clients drowning in tax debt. And IRS Problem Relief is a local company right here in Panama City, not some 800 number where you can never talk to the same person twice. Put those problems behind you so you can focus on moving forward. Call Edward Corey with IRS Problem Relief, 850-784-8176. For a free consultation, call Edward Corey with IRS Problem Relief. It's 850-784-8176 or visit irsproblemrelief.com.
The battle for the East continues to heat up, and your Atlanta Braves are battling back and looking for some big wins.
He sends one soaring to right field, back to the chop house, 3-0 Braves!
Tonight, don't miss Matt Olson and your Atlanta Braves as they look for a big National League win in Milwaukee as they take on the Brewers.
Braves coverage begins at 6 after the Afternoon Underdogs. First pitch 7:10. Here are your home for the Braves, ESPN Northwest Florida.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man.
It's the Afternoon Underdogs on the Sports Talk Monster.
You're gonna be mine. Woo!
ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back here in the doghouse riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. And this is Tangent Tuesdays with Tyler Bishop. No minute. We don't have your minute with Max today because he is still up there in Chicago, so no shade really been thrown towards Florida State fans in about 3 weeks now, and I know Florida State fans are ready to have Max back, so they have a reason to call in and pick at him a little bit. So as we get closer to the college football season, I'm sure he'll be coming up with a few takes. And I've had 2 different seasons now, one being a road to glory, one being a dynasty. Florida State has not been at the top of the ACC in neither one of those, which again, it's a video game, so it doesn't really mean anything, but it's got Oregon and Michigan at the top of the Big Ten, or Oregon and Ohio. It's got like the mainstays in all the other conferences. However, in the ACC, it has not been Florida State. What's your outlook for Florida State? I know we've already done their predictions by doing the ACC, but is it Florida State Clemson in the ACC, or are things starting to change a little bit?
I mean, I think right now, the problem is, as much as you want to see some diversity,
right?
Like, there's just no coach there's no coach and no quarterback or no combo of those two that really makes you truly believe that, oh yeah, this team is going to make a serious run. Would you like to see Miami? I think it'd be fun to see Miami be good again. Like Virginia Tech, we kind of talked about it last week, seeing Lane Stadium going. It's a great site for all of college football, but I'm in the show me mood when it comes to most of the teams, because I feel like every year there's one of those ACC, like North Carolina for 3 or 4 years between Drake May and Mitch Trubisky and some of those guys. This is the team that's going to overtake the ACC. They never did. Clemson is just, they've been so consistent under Dabo, for better, for worse. I've said a lot of things about Dabo and Clemson on this show, but you can't knock their consistency. What they've done has been very impressive as a whole. And what Mike Norvell has been able to get Florida State back to, is pretty solid as well. From what they were in those Taggart years and his first year, to get him to a 13-0 season, and then obviously it ended very poorly for him in a lot of different perspectives. But he's doing a good job. Was it like Ed Orgeron and LSU and kind of like a one-hit perfect storm, or has he built a foundation to sustain? We'll see. That's yet to be seen, and anybody who says they know either way is just lying to themselves.
Absolutely. We are going to see what happens here. And you're right, man. Just kind of like in the NFL where you have teams who were used to being dominant now have become sort of question marks, such as the Buffalo Bills is like the first team that comes to my mind when you talk about a team who's always in it, or has been, at least let's say over the last 5-6 years. And this year, you still got Josh Allen, but what else do you got? And you're going to need a lot from James Cook as well, and you're going to need those receivers to step up big time, and hopefully Josh Allen isn't turning the ball over in the worst part of the field to turn the ball over at. That that is the red zone. So, yeah, a lot of question marks. ACC, even the SEC, there's still Big Ten. I think there's question marks there because you have big branded programs. USC, what are they going to look like in year one? So I think this is going to be a very exciting year in college football with not just the question marks, but just not knowing what's going on. And then you get a 12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, last year we kind of went into like, we do what to really expect from Georgia. Bama for the most part, Michigan for the most part, Ohio State for the most part, Oregon for the most part. Like Washington was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Texas a little bit going in. Like
Washington was a huge surprise.
Yeah, we had a really good feeling about a lot of those teams, and like it ended up overall panning out fairly close to what everybody kind of predicted. But this year, like, you can feel pretty good about Georgia for the most part, I feel like, with returning their staff and quarterback. But, like, Ohio State doesn't return their quarterback. Bama's got all sorts of chaos going on over there. I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but they've got a lot of unknown. Michigan's got a lot of unknown. Yeah. Oregon less so than a lot of, but I mean, they're still replacing Bo Nix. They're still replacing Troy Franklin. They're still replacing a lot off that team. Can Dan keep replicating that? And there's a lot of those teams that we could kind of count on last year. We can't count on this year because of coaching change, because of everything else. So I think there is a lot more unknown going into this year, and it's going to make it exciting.
It is, man. It absolutely is. A few headlines before we start diving into the Big Ten predictions here. Caleb Williams, we were talking about this yesterday, over under 1.5 series, I think we set it at. Maybe it was 2.5. He will be under that for sure. Caleb Williams will not be playing in the Hall of Fame game versus the Texans. You think this is a good or bad move here, Tyler?
Well, the Hall of Fame game is like an extra preseason, right? That's an additional preseason game?
I think that, yes.
Whoever's playing in that, it's an extra game for those two teams.
I don't think it's terrible for him because, I'm sure Keelan Allen's not going to play. There's probably going to be a lot of their veterans that wouldn't be playing anyway. I don't think missing this one game, as long as he's still getting hit. I think I don't know what the magic number is, but he probably needs to hit 20 drives in the preseason. Spread out over 3 or 4 games, maybe 18.
And they only played 3 games anyway, so if you were to play in this one, it would be your fourth one. But I don't see how are they going to continue to get people coming to the Hall of Fame game. I guess maybe people will show up just for the enshrinement process, but at least give the people a series or two, man. Your people have been wanting to see you in the NFL. They want to see what color. Never mind. I want to see Caleb Williams in this game. I want to see C.J. Stroud in this game. And I know that it would be less likely to see C.J. Stroud than Caleb Williams, and we're not going to see Caleb Williams now we know that for sure. I get it, but also at the same time, I feel like this is the exact correlation of why we see so many injuries, especially the beginning part of the year.
When they first came out with the Hall of Fame game, though, it was pretty normal for these quarterbacks to always start. So when the genesis of this idea came about, they didn't have these kinds of problems like you do now, and they didn't foresee that. And now, these coaching staffs and general managers, they don't owe it to anybody to showcase these guys. They're going to get on the field. You're going to see them. If they're not ready or they don't think they've had enough reps or whatever to go out there, don't go out there and make them look bad, because, you can hurt somebody way worse than I think you can help them by having them go out there for a series or 2.
See, I'm of the, I could understand it for some positions, but I think quarterback, as much as any position, for a rookie especially, getting some live reps against a team that's not your own in a real game setting, even if it's going to be base coverage, you may be playing against their second, third string defense, whatever it is. I still think getting out and getting those live reps is beneficial for any quarterback. I don't think you can have enough as a young quarterback trying to grow in this league. You can't have enough reps.
Right. Saleh came out today and he said Rodgers won't be playing, likely will not play in the preseason. I get that. Took him 4 minutes to tear his ACL. Right.
And he's already played. He doesn't
played
need
300 NFL games, whatever the number is.
Exactly. Those are circumstances where it's of course. That makes sense. And he's been, it's not like this is his first season with the Jets now, so he knows what's going on with the playbook. It's more about the receivers getting on the same page as him, which also is different in practice than what it is in a game. But when you boil it down to playing against second and third stringers, you give yourself a bit of an advantage there. So, yeah, I'm sad about, not sad, but I do wish that Caleb Williams was playing in this game, because at least it would have me turn the TV on for this game. I don't really have anything that's making me, which is wild, right? You go so long without football and it's all right, preseason's here, and then you're like, okay, it's preseason football,
This is always
right?
a garbage game, though. Nobody ever cares.
I've watched the last two in their entireties just like because I've been waiting so long on foot, but there's just no draw to this one. There's no draw for me on this one. Like 2 years ago, I believe it was Jacksonville and Oakland. It might have been last year, but I believe that was 2 years ago, Jacksonville and Las Vegas. And there were stories like Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? There was little storylines that had me tune into the game. But this year, I think I'm just going to not waste my time with preseason this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, preseason, it's always one of those things, like, I kind of the same thing, like, I'm waiting for football, like, I'll take any football I get, but it's like you get to preseason, and they're not really playing to win. Like, and I don't blame anybody. Like, it's an audition. Like, coaches are trying to test guys out. It's very individual. There's no point sacrifice yourself for a team that may or may not have you on the roster next week. And it's like I said, it is football, but is it really? Like, it's football in form, but it's not real football. So it's hard to get the same, like, it doesn't really, like, satisfy that fix like you would almost think it would.
Chef Ross says, when was the last time Rodgers took a preseason snap? Looks like he played 2 series against the Giants in the final game of the preseason. That was last year? Last year, I'm assuming, and that was his first preseason action since 2018. Oh wow! So yeah, that was last year because it was his first time being with the Jets, and then in his very next appearance in a Jets uniform, it was one drive later, and he was out for the season.
Yeah, I remember watching that. I was like, what just happened?
I mean, you watch your season flash before your eyes, essentially, if you're anyone else on the Jets, especially if you're solid. Like, all you can see is a chair and it lighting on fire at that point in time for the hot seat. But I think that the Jets are going to be a much better squad this year for them to go 7-10 as they did last year and to have the leader that they're going to have. So do you think, Tyler, that Aaron Rodgers needs to be playing MVP caliber for the Jets to make the playoffs?
To make the playoffs? No.
Make the playoffs, right.
Wow, the AFC is so tough, though.
It is, man. It's so convoluted.
Kind of tough, too.
That division's kind of tough. I mean,
Bills.
I was initially no, but I mean, they may have. I'm going to say no, but I think if he can beat Kirk Cousins level. I think Kirk Cousins level probably.
Watch Kirk win the MVP.
And I don't mean that as a disrespect, but I don't think anybody's ever. I mean, he hasn't been in a serious playoff race or in a serious MVP race in a while. I don't believe, outside of kind of like an outside shooter's chance. I think, but if he can be, they do have a little bit of weapons there. They do have a pretty solid defense. Salah's been a pretty good defensive coach while he's been there. If he can be a good distributor of the ball, not cost them points, I think that can be all they need. Granted, anything above that will be gravy for him.
Do you think he's capable of winning the MVP? Do you 100%. Think he still has enough left in the tank to win the MVP 100%?
I think so. I mean, if that Achilles is good enough, because at that point you got to think like he had a whole year off from football.
Yeah,
like his body was able to heal.
Deshaun Watson had too.
Exactly. I mean, but you're assuming that he's going to be able to get back to the point he was, and it's I mean that full year, his back not taking the hits, his shoulder not throwing 1,000 passes, his other leg, the rest of his other leg, there's a lot of regeneration that was probably able to go on that would not have been able to occur if he was playing all last year.
Yeah. Caveman Rick, what level does Aaron Rodgers need to play to for the Jets to make the playoffs?
I don't think it so much matters like on him as it does the rest of the team around him. Can the offensive line, keep him standing up the whole season, keep him healthy? Can his wide receivers, not drop balls and have a good rapport? Can, the running game continue? Can the defense hold up and, keep the other offense off the field? So I think it's going to lend itself to more to what the team around him is doing it. There's enough talent there all around to help him out if he can stay healthy. It is tough in the AFC because he's going to be going up against guys like Lamar Jackson potentially for an MVP, Patrick Mahomes again, just to name a couple of guys. So he definitely has the talent. I think the age really isn't that big of a deal. He's done it long enough. It's just can they just have a complete cohesive unit around him, and
yeah.
I think there's a good opportunity there.
Yeah, and is he going to be on the same page as his wide receivers? Will Mike Williams, which, just wasn't able to stay healthy consistently over there in Los Angeles, does maybe the cooler weather will be better on his body? But, I mean, I always rooted for Mike Williams for some reason, especially after he went to Clemson, right?
Yeah, he was a Clemson.
Yeah. After his tenure there at Clemson is when all right, hey, now I can cheer for you a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I agree with you, Caveman Rick, that it's not as much on the way that Aaron Rodgers played. Now, he has to be. He doesn't got to be MVP Aaron Rodgers, but he's got to, like you said,
top 12, top 10 quarterback.
Oh, yeah,
top 12 for sure.
Yeah,
no
top
doubt.
12. But I think, like you said 100%. Like, is he capable of winning the MVP? Yes, I believe that he's in a. There's so many other quarterbacks that he's going to be battling it out with. But at the end of the day, I think that he has what it takes to win the MVP.
More likely comeback player of the year.
Yeah, I was about to say, if the Jets make the playoffs, it's going to be easy, right?
A lot of people were saying DeMar Hamlin last year is like, no. I mean, and I'm glad that he didn't win the award just because he took like 4 snaps throughout the entirety of the season. You can book it on Aaron Rodgers. Like if I was Hard Rock. Now here's the
He would
I guess
have
you
to,
can't
you
book
have to stay
it.
healthy because if he goes down again,
I was about to
it doesn't
say.
count, you know?
I was about to say if he gets injured again.
Yeah.
But watch him just not have it anymore because of that year off. And the Jets go. What if the Jets go worse than 7-10? Obviously, Salah's got to be out, right?
Oh, he's gone.
There would have to be like a total like rebuild. You'd have to burn it to the ground and start all over.
Yeah, at
again,
that point,
dude.
Salah'd have to go.
You know.
Johnny Yankee Seed says 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and less than 10 interceptions. He needs those numbers. I don't know if he needs those numbers. And Aaron Rodgers normally does not turn the ball over that much.
If those numbers or not those numbers, if that happens and they have that much of a losing season, so many things will happen.
I mean, aren't those
like Mike Greenberg will probably kill himself. Woody Hayes will need to sell the team. I mean, like all kinds of stuff will have to happen, dude.
But aren't the numbers that he gave you, like, aren't those just kind of fairly standard Aaron Rodgers number? I mean, the touchdowns maybe a little high, maybe like 24 and 8.
I think you go 4,000, 30, and less than 10. Like
those are
Jets,
MVP numbers, and the Jets probably winning the division.
Yeah, I was about to say they might win the division. Now, if the defense stands up to what we know them to be, but the Jets defense is normally
because you could make arguments for the Bills taking a step back. The Pats are not going to be a true contender, and the Dolphins are so hit or miss. And Tyreek's getting older. Does he eventually hit that wall? I don't think he does this year. But
with all the games they're playing, throwing for 4,000 yards is anybody just
free
do it nowadays.
Yeah. Playoff game. Let's say it's wild card round. Let's say the Bills win the division, or no. It could be you could win the AFC East and not be the number 1 seed, and so you would be playing in the wild card round at that point. Let's say that it just so happens Jets, Dolphins face off in a playoff game. Which team would you take?
Depends on where they're playing.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I'm exactly right there. Is if they're playing in Miami, I got Miami. If they're playing in New York and it's frigid, I would take the Jets.
See, I don't think it matters that time because like the humidity in Miami in January isn't September Miami. You know, I don't think it'd be as big of a deal for the Jets as it would.
But I think that Miami
going to New York.
But that's what I'm saying. But you think Miami's a significantly better team then?
I think Miami is a.
I don't
say significantly.
I don't think them playing in Miami hurts the Jets, I guess, is more my point. Like, but I think Miami playing in New York would hurt.
Right. I guess that's what I'm getting at. But I do like Miami in my, like, if let's say we're playing on a neutral site in October, all right? At this point in time, I would be leaning Miami. Okay. I would be leaning Miami in good weather.
I think in big game scenarios, I would trust the quarterback that's been there.
I mean, but Aaron Rodgers, really, if you think about it, he's had a lot of great Hail Mary moments and stuff, but I feel like later in his years, maybe it's just in the bigger games, you know, like, and I'm really just thinking about that Bucks, Packers, NFC, I believe it was championship. I believe it was the NFC championship where, that might have just been pure coaching why they ended up losing that game, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that was Aaron Rodgers. They should have went for it, and instead they kicked the field goal.
I think so. Yeah.
Dumb. Yeah. Well, we'll see what LaFleur can cook up for the Packers this year with his highly paid quarterback, along with Tua and the Dolphins. Do you think that has an effect? Which quarterback do you think takes the step back? Do you think either one of them takes a step back this year, Jordan Love or Tua?
Ooh, that's tough.
It is tough.
Jordan Love, I mean, they just got paid, too. So usually if they get paid, that's like when
both of them just got paid,
that's what I'm saying. But usually, like, if something's going to happen like that, obviously you're playing to get that contract. Once you get that contract, you kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit because now you just got the bag. So that's kind of tough between those two, man.
I'm going to say Jordan Love.
He's got more to prove, I think, still.
Well, I mean, I think they still both have stuff to prove. I have one reason. It's a simple reason, and I hope both of these quarterbacks continue on the path that they've been headed towards. I'll say Jordan Love because what I liked about how Tua handled his contract situation, he was there at training camp. He continued to show up for the guys. Jordan Love, now be it his agent, be it the team, whoever wasn't there. You know what I mean? Was it a long time? Absolutely not. However, I'm going to go with Tua on that. I think that when you play that ceiling floor game, maybe Jordan Love's ceiling is a little bit higher, but I think Tua's floor is a lot higher than Jordan Love's.
I agree. And I mean, Tua's weapons are better. I mean, right now, it's not even close. And there's part of it, like Jordan Love has 1 year of tape now. Like now he's got a full year of tape. Does that help defenses prepare for him a little bit better? Maybe, but Tua's got a little bit more tape out there already. And I think Mike McDaniels, you could argue, is probably the stronger offense, or is the more creative offensive mind right now. So if I was having to bet on a unit, I'd rather bet on the Dolphins versus the Packers.
Yeah, the Packers' edge would be playing at home at Lambeau in the bad weather.
Yeah, there you go. I want to go back to Jordan Love in the playoffs last year because that's, they beat the Cowboys 48-32. They stomped them. He threw for 272 yards. He threw for 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Then the next week he's got the 49ers, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 24-21 loss there. So, he's got room to grow. He had a decent game against Dallas. I think that game against Dallas was, I think you can give a lot more credit to Aaron Jones, honestly, in that game and the Packers defense.
I was say he had a decent game and he beat the Dallas and they put a lot of points up. And then the next week, he had what you would say a poor game. Less than 200 yards passing, right?
Tougher defense though in the 49ers,
and still only lost by 3 points though.
Yeah, there you go.
Was in the game,
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Green Bay was leading going into the half.
Green Bay was it not getting control, but they were. The game was never over. You know what I'm saying? The game was always in doubt until. I don't know if it ended in a knee or Hail Mary type deal, but that game was never if you're a 49ers fan, you never felt great about that.
It was the fourth quarter. That's when the 49ers started to pull away, but they never pulled away. 3
points is not pulling away.
And that's a lot of thanks to Christian McCaffrey. But you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to play a little trivia when we get back. Hey, instead of us reading off the question, why don't you call us, 850-215-6290, and find out what it is.
America's team plays here.
And a rocket to right field. This thing is into orbit.
The Atlanta Braves on ESPN Northwest Florida. Acuna, Ozzie, and Austin Riley lead the Braves' high-powered offense.
Swung on, belted, deep right field. Get out of here, Ozzie. Home run. Ball game.
The Atlanta Braves on ESPN Northwest Florida is sponsored by Brock's Pest Control, Store More Portable Buildings, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Billberg Kia, and Mid-South Lumber.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with Tuesday's weather forecast. A mixture of some clouds and likely thunderstorms the rest of the day with temps near 91 and a wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight and a temperature of 80. About the same tomorrow, around 90 with a mixture of some sun and a possibility of thunderstorms. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
You owe the IRS back taxes, and dealing with the IRS stresses you out. Fortunately, IRS Problem Relief can help you resolve back taxes and represent you to the IRS so you don't have to face them alone. Last year, IRS Problem Relief saved clients drowning in tax debt. And IRS Problem Relief is a local company right here in Panama City, not some 800 number where you can never talk to the same person twice. Put those problems behind you so you can focus on moving forward. Call Edward Corey with IRS Problem Relief, 850-784-8176. For a free consultation, call Edward Corey with IRS Problem Relief. It's 850-784-8176 or visit irsproblemrelief.com.
It's go time all the time. Sports talk around the clock.
Oh my gosh!
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
This This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We are the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. ESPN Northwest Florida presents the Week of Winning. Chop on, Braves fans. We're going to be giving away family 4-packs of tickets to experience the Atlanta Braves at Truist Park, and that'll be during the Week of Winning. The game is going to be Saturday night, August 24th, versus the Nationals on the Coach Hale Show, August 6th. That's a Tuesday at 7:40 a.m. Make sure you're listening. Also on the Inside Drive, Wednesday, August 7th at 12:40 p.m. and on the Afternoon Underdogs, Thursday, August 8th at 5:40, and then we'll wrap it up Friday, August 9th at 7:40 a.m. All you got to do is we're going to give you a cue to call. Be caller number 10, 850-215-6290, and give us the phrase that pays, and that phrase is chop on. The Atlanta Braves Week of Winning on ESPN Northwest Florida, brought to you by PCB Hobby, Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas Drive, and Home 2 Suites. Give me a call right now. Play some trivia. Don't be scared. I'm not going to give you the question out loud. I want to hear your Google fingers working while they're at work. This one might be. I mean, this is a pretty easy Googleable question. Also, if you know sports movies, it's rather easy. It's just the nickname of a certain school. So 850-215-6290. We got $25 to not the, but that boot store. Who do you guys think will be out at Dallas first? Do you think it'll be Dak Prescott or Mike McCarthy?
Oh, that's a good question. Because they're both.
That question brought to you by Terry Ross.
Yeah, good question, by the way, Terry. I would say, they're both lame ducks right now. They both don't have contracts, right? They're both playing for their lives. So it's going to be contingent on who does better this season. If I had a bet, man, Jerry Jones would probably get rid of them both at the same moment on the same day.
Yeah.
That would be such a Jerry Jones kind of moment, or move to make, decide that he wasn't going to re-sign Dak and at the same time fire Mike McCarthy. But if you make me pick one and you had me twist my arm,
water gun to your head.
Dak's got more value to the franchise than Mike McCarthy does. So I say Mike McCarthy gets axed first.
Tyler?
No, I kind of agree with Rick. I don't think there's any way McCarthy stays and Dak goes. They may both go, but McCarthy would definitely be gone. If he doesn't
I don't think Mike McCarthy. I don't know if he wants to be back.
He's got to get to the NFC Championship.
I was about to say
he
can't go 12-5 and lose in the first round again. He would have to at least advance one round, I think, to even think about keeping his job. And if they don't do that, then Dak could still have a great year, 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and still be good enough to get paid again if they're going to do that. And be like, McCarthy, you're out of here.
Yeah, I do agree with both of y'all essentially that Dak is more valuable to the franchise than what Mike McCarthy is. Also, if you're Mike McCarthy or the Dallas Cowboys, I think it's very feasible for the Cowboys to have another great regular season and then falter, and then Mike McCarthy can look back at Jerry Jones after being fired or however it plays out and be like, well, we went all in this season about the same way that you went all in on our off season.
Yeah. But you got really nobody to blame. Mike McCarthy, if he does get axed.
Well, the guy that you blame all the time, and that most Cowboys, at least smart, cerebral Cowboys fans know where the blame goes, right?
Yeah, ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah, right at the top, man. It starts at the top and it goes down from there.
Yeah, that's wild. And you've been watching any Olympics?
I have not.
Well, the Team USA Soccer, the men's team, under 23, they beat Guinea today 2-0. So with that, they're moving on to the quarterfinals, which is...
Eat those pigs.
That's the first time. Yeah, he's guinea pigs.
Okay. I was like, what?
He's thinking, what a pig? What?
I was like, all right, whatever. Yeah.
There's that. And then Team USA women's gymnastics and Simone Biles got gold today. So they are leading. Team USA is leading the overall medal count. I think they're leading in silver and bronze, but we are behind in gold medals.
France is leading. Upsetting the rest of the world.
In what?
Their shenanigans.
You're saying upsetting the rest of the world, and you hit me with the and I still went over my head. I was like, well, what sport are they upsetting people in? Basketball, they actually almost got upset, and that's what I thought you were alluding to, because they were playing, I believe it was Greece today, and they
Japan,
Greece,
I think.
Oh, was it Japan?
Well, I know they played. I don't know if that was their last.
Greece and Japan played, I think, a few days ago, if I'm not mistaken. Is that who they were playing?
France played Japan.
How you know if you don't watch none of the Olympics?
Because it was a picture of like Wembanyama versus the Japanese guy. Like he came up to like his hip or something. Like it was something crazy. Like it was like, yeah, this is an actual picture from the Olympics. It was what I had seen. But
yeah, so Wemby went. It actually was Japan. France beat Japan today. Wemby scored 8 of his 18 points in overtime, and they just got past Japan, 94-90. So interesting stuff there. We'll see if they move on. They are unbeaten so far in group play, so it looks like pretty strong chances that they will be moving on to the knockout rounds.
Maybe France should promote Wemby and like Gobert after this Olympics to like generals for their military.
All right. How about Rashad Penny? Rashad Penny, running back. He, most notably played with the Seahawks. He was going to be a member of the Carolina Panthers this year, and he has retired.
Most recently an Eagle, too, before that.
He was what? He was drafted the same year Saquon Barkley.
He was 28 years old, so
I want to say he was in the Barkley draft because that was also Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb. That's the reason why. So that'd been the 2018 NFL draft, right?
We're going to find out. 2018 draft,
San Diego State, right?
Yep, San Diego State.
Yeah, no, he's one of those guys you could see the potential when he was healthy. He was just never healthy, it felt like, in Seattle. And then once he left Seattle, it kind of felt like he was damaged goods. And, I know he was with Philly and kind of bounced around, but just never really caught on. But he was a first-round pick.
Kind of always had that hype around him, too, to be one of those guys that you want to draft early, and then he just frustrates the crap out of you.
Yep. Him and Sonny Michel, I mean, they were both 30, late 20s, early 30s picks in the NFL draft, both first-round guys. And, I mean, Sonny Michel had a decent rookie year, never really caught on after that, and Rashad just never stayed healthy enough. And then you've had Saquon and Chubb on either side of them having pretty good careers.
Which player from your college, from the Georgia Bulldogs, that you personally just had so much either hope or high expectations for in the league, and it just never worked out? For me, I got 2 guys that just come to the forefront of my mind, both of them running backs. Alabama has such a long list of guys currently in the league, dominating the league really since 2009 to some extent. Of course, you got your Ohio State, your Michigan in there as well, Florida Gators as well, but they haven't been very active in the last few years. Eddie Lacy, Trent Richardson, those are 2 guys. I really thought Trent Richardson was going to be something in the league, and he turned out to be a bust. So what about for you, Georgia Bulldogs?
I mean, I think Sonny Michel's Sonny Michel and DeAndre Swift.
Swift? Hey, he's still got an opportunity.
He's had a decent career in the NFL, but I mean, he was so explosive at Georgia.
Yeah.
He was, but he's had injury issues in the NFL, and that's really hurt his longevity in his career. But Sonny Michel, he was explosive. I mean, him and Nick Chubb were such a dynamic duo in that backfield, leading Georgia to the championship game against Alabama in 2017-2018 season. And everybody, a lot of Georgia fans thought he'd end up being the better NFL back. He was a little bit more, explosive, a little bit more kind of elusive. And Nick Chubb was obviously a great player, number 2 all time, I believe, in Georgia rushing history, and obviously has had a great career for the most part with the Browns. But just more shocked that Sonny Michel, he just seems slow in the NFL, which is just crazy because he seems so much quicker in college than even Nick Chubb did, and just never, whatever reason, his game just did not translate at all, and kind of surprised by that.
Johnny Yankee Seed says Azeez Ojulari has been a bust from Georgia so far. He's still a giant, but he needs to do something this year. Kyle Albritton says, I thought Jabbar Gaffney and Chad Jackson would have had better careers as wide receivers. Caveman Rick, obviously you don't got a college team, but what is a player from the realm of college that you had high expectations for, even coming over to your Philadelphia Eagles, and it just didn't pan out?
That's a good one. Can't think of anybody right off the top.
Jalen Reed.
Jeff Ross says, I thought Gurley would have lasted a lot longer than he did. He was marred by injuries as well, but it's still for
he
the
was
career
so
that he
good
had.
for so long. It's hard to say he was a disappointment. Like his longevity
I'm
wasn't there,
with you
but
too.
I mean the guy, he's still
And it's a running back.
He still has some of the most touchdowns from scrimmage over the last 6 years, and he hasn't played.
You guys
in
were
2.5.
spoiled by Herschel Walker running back, and that's why you guys complain about all these other running backs.
I ain't complaining about it.
Just saying, these guys, probably like Swift's still pretty good, pretty serviceable guy. Just kind of being.
You're saying that because he was an Eagle last year.
I just can't believe he hasn't. I just expect a little bit bigger things from him in the NFL.
Hey, maybe he has a big year this year and really helps Caleb Williams along that road as a quarterback.
He might. I mean, I don't know. Time's going to tell.
Are there any players that you had high hopes for, not Georgia players?
Ooh, man, that's a tough. I mean, I'm sure there's a handful of them. I have to think about it for a second.
Yeah,
there.
that one is definitely. I'm just coming up with questions, trying to get us to hour number 2, and then we can start our Big Ten preview. How about Denard Robinson? I mean, did you? I guess maybe that's kind of a stretch, just because I basically just thought of NCAA 14 on the cover. Saw him on there. Hey, Shoelace, how about him?
He's a guy coming out that never really had a position.
And he was never going to be a quarterback.
Yeah, no, that's...
Actually, I got one real quick, just because of personal thing. Mike Williams, not the one you guys are thinking about. Yeah. Mike Williams from USC from like about 20 years ago.
Got drafted by the Detroit. And like the top
Detroit.
3
Actually, when I worked at a restaurant when I was going to paramedic school up in Atlanta area, he came into the restaurant we were at, ate a couple of days in a row. I served him and stuff like that. He was a really cool dude. Talked to him for a few, and yeah, I had high hopes because I had a little connection to the guy. But then he ended up flopping.
Kyle Albritton saying Charles Rogers from Michigan State. And for Chef Ross, his NFL bust was Ron Dane.
Ron Dane.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a while since.
But I mean, he's good there with Tiki Barber when they had Thunder and Lightning for about 2 seasons. They were not too bad.
Wait, was that Ron Dane? Or?
Yeah. I think it was Tiki Barber and Ron Dane, if I'm not mistaken.
Brandon Jacobs was after those guys.
It was probably after Ron Dane at that point.
Yeah. No doubt. Brandon Jacobs, man, that dude was a mountain of a man. And it's still, is A.J. Dillon, did he stay with the Packers or did he go somewhere else? I'll have to look that up. It's still with the Packers. I've been hoping on that guy to be something since Boston College. So that's a guy that I'll throw in there because he had that Derrick Henry type build. He could run the ball very well, and it just maybe sitting behind Aaron Jones. But I think that's the right way to do it. Use your slasher and then your bowling ball, if you will. But he was a lot bigger than a bowling ball. This is the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida. We got a couple more comments to read off when we get back. Then it's time to get into the Big Ten.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Atlanta Braves play here.
We're giving away family 4-packs of tickets to see the Atlanta Braves play the Washington Nationals on August 24th during the Week of Winning. Your first chance to win Braves tickets will be with the Coach James Hale Show, Tuesday, August 6th at 7:40. Plus, listen to the Inside Drive and the Afternoon Underdogs for more chances to win during the Week of Winning on your home for the Atlanta Braves.
ESPN Northwest Florida. Good evening. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Tuesday. Partly cloudy tonight with very little wind and temps near 81. Tomorrow morning, we will have mostly sunshine and a wind speed of 2 miles per hour and be hot at 88. Possible thunderstorms and some sun in the afternoon and evening and a high 90 with a gentle breeze. Some sun and a chance of thunderstorms Thursday with a temp of 92. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hey there, folks. Looking for a place that feels like home right in the heart of Panama City? Well, look no further than Charlie Corm's Place at their new location on 15th Street. Charlie Corm's is not just a place, it's an experience. Imagine cozy corners, friendly faces, and the aroma of delicious dishes that'll make your taste buds dance. From sunrise breakfast to late night bites, Charlie Corm's on 15th Street has it all. Charlie Corm's Place on 15th Street is now offering exclusive weekday lunch specials. Visit Charlie Corm's Place on 15th Street. Look for the giant mural.
Hi folks, I'm Tracy at Tracy's Fine Jewelry. Santa called and he asked me to help everyone get ready for Christmas and avoid the stress and rush. So we've stocked the store and slashed the prices. All colored gemstones have been reduced 50 to 70% off. Emeralds, rubies, sapphires, amethysts, blue topaz, tanzanites, opals, and many more. And we are offering free 6-month layaway. Tracy's Fine Jewelry takes the stress out of the holidays. So shop now where Santa shops during our Christmas and July sale at Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
WVLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lynn Haven, powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The battle for the East continues to heat up, and your Atlanta Braves are battling back and looking for some big wins.
He sends one soaring to right field, back to the chop house, 3-0 Braves.
Tonight, don't miss Matt Olson and your Atlanta Braves as they look for a big National League win in Milwaukee as they take on the Brewers.
Braves coverage begins at 6 after the Afternoon Underdogs. First pitch 7:10. Here are your home for the Braves, ESPN Northwest Florida.
He likes to lift weights in a parking lot and eat Weight Gainer 3000.
I'm really starting to feel out nasty.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
We're back. It's hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs. You're tuned into ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Braves took a loss last night, 8-3. Marcelo Ozuna did get the scoring started last night with a 438-foot blast. And Orlando Arcia made it 2-0. Then the Brewers worked their way back with a couple of home runs of their own tonight. Coverage starts at 6 o'clock. First pitch, 7:10, and it's going to be Bryce Elder going up against Joe Ross for the Brewers. As Tyler mentioned earlier during the break, that is like the perfect name for a Midwestern pitcher. Joe Ross just doesn't really make you think of anything.
Yeah, it's just like, that guy's going to go out there. He's going to give you 7 good innings and call it a day. Like.
Also, we had some big news for rugby. Rugby sevens.
4.3.
We'll get to that. Well, we'll just go ahead and.
Breaking weather.
Breaking weather. It's sunny outside.
Just trying to give Michigan Eddie some props for that call from earlier.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, he was talking about Flaherty, man, going to the Dodgers, and I just got an alert on my phone, and sure enough, the deal's done.
And the reason why you put breaking weather on that is because Joanne had texted you that, right?
Yeah, just because I hit the wrong key by accident, man. Fat fingered it. It happens.
Yeah, no doubt. I was trying to bring in a little inside joke there with the inside drive. Jay Henley and Joanne
I don't got a bad
anymore.
relationship with her like Jay does, so I'm good.
So yeah, Jack Flaherty going to the Dodgers.
Yep,
any prospects named, or is it just players to be named
I'm
later?
actually clicking on it now, trying to pull it up, and it's just taking a moment, unfortunately, because of pride in the building.
Yeah.
Let's see.
While you're looking up that,
all right.
Rugby. What did we do in rugby today? Team USA Women's.
Team USA Women's Rugby had a 90-yard walk-off score to beat Australia in the bronze medal game, getting their first medal ever.
90 yards? That's a long way for rugby, ain't it? I mean, 90 yards in football is incredibly long.
Yeah, so I'm assuming, basically the full length of the pitch, I guess. Is that what they call it in rugby?
I think they call it the pitch.
But, yeah. 90-yard walk-off, or 90-ish yard, maybe in like 80.
Way to go, ladies. First ever Olympic medal for Team USA Women's Rugby. That's what been...
It wasn't 90 yards. It was, I read it would be the equivalent of a 90-yard touchdown at the buzzer. So whatever.
So he knows we don't know rugby. Yeah. Whoever sent that to you, we don't know rugby.
In terms I can understand here.
Exactly. It's like asking Max, what would Chelsea be if they were an SEC football team? Oh, man, good stuff. A couple more comments from what we were talking about earlier. Players that you thought were going to be great at the next level and just really never panned out to be that. Charles Rogers from Michigan State. We did get to that one. How about Justin Blackman from Oklahoma State?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I thought I had high hopes for him as well.
It's funny that you mentioned him. I saw a graphic of like the highest career receiving yards of all time, and there was 2 Oklahoma State Cowboys, but it wasn't Des Bryant or Justin Blackman. It was James Washington, and what other name I wasn't super familiar with. It's just kind of like, what are the odds? They're 2 or 3, 2 highest profile guys that come out of that program were not the guys on that list.
Well, probably because they didn't play the full...
They probably didn't play the full 4 years, which makes sense. But it's one of those, you see the logo and you kind of just immediately went to those guys.
Go ahead, Rick.
So it looks like the Detroit Tigers in return get a first baseman and catcher, Trayvon Lorenzo, and a shortstop, Trey Sweeney.
All right. Yeah, so a little more. I'm not sure if they're prospects, but I would imagine them to be prospects. I haven't heard much of their names. Rice State Chris says Lawrence Maroney. Johnny Yankee Seed says Brandon Jacobs was with Ahmad Bradshaw. Lawrence Maroney, I believe. I don't know if I had high hopes for him. I don't know if I had high hopes for him, but I do like the text there. Kyle Albritton reiterates Trent Richardson, which, yes, that's an overwhelming one. Marcus Lattimore, South Carolina.
I would have more. I would agree with that more if he didn't have those 2 serious back-to-back knee injuries. Gotcha. he had 2 major injuries going into the league. I mean, he was like a 4th or 5th round guy. Seems like a guy you want to root for, but it's not super surprising.
Yeah, no doubt. And then Laquan Treadwell.
That's a good one.
That's a great one.
That's a good one. That was a guy I thought, especially going to Minnesota. I believe,
Minnesota.
It was going to be a great spot for him, and just never, because I think that was when Diggs was still there. So I thought that was going to be a sweet 1-2 punch.
Yep, and we kind of felt like the same for Jordan Addison, which, I mean, he still has plenty of time, and he had flashes last year, but I don't think he's going to be facing any type of suspension, but he did get that DUI. I know for one thing he'd be celebrated if he was a Bulldog. So.
You guys remember Dexter McCluster?
Yeah, Dexter McCluster,
That was a good one, huh?
He had a decent little career
as a returner, especially.
Like, yeah, but he wasn't the running back dude that he was supposed to be. Like, Andy Reid was smitten when that guy when he first came out, and he didn't turn into anything.
You just said he was a niche guy. He wasn't a guy you wanted to get the ball to 30 times a game, but he needed his 10 touches, I think. Like,
Ooh, Monty Teo. How about that one? He said, def a name we thought was going to be big in the NFL, and his girlfriend did too. Let me not do that. I watched the documentary on that. He wasn't very happy about that. He really did get catfished in that whole situation.
You feel for the guy, but at the same time, and it's easy to say as somebody who's never gone through, but it's almost like, really?
Bro, you got a bunch of people right around you on campus that would be ready to,
No doubt.
What's that?
Well, I said no doubt, but then you think about the campus he was on too, so it's kind of, I don't know. But I mean, it's college.
Bro, it's college, and there's pretty girls all over America. All over America. All right, let's get into it. Big Ten. We'll go through our, do you want to start with the schedule kind of breakdown, or would you rather go over some dark horse? Let's start with the schedule breakdown. That way people will know kind of where we're at with teams, and we can go over the dark horses, favorites, and maybe some players to keep an eye out for. All right, let's start with Illinois here. Any games that jump off the schedule? First off, let's start off how we have been doing it. What record do you have for Illinois this year?
I had them at 8-4 last year. I have that reversed this year. I got them at 4-8.
Ding, ding, ding. 4-8. Do they have any surprising wins?
Nah. Nobody really. I mean, losing to the usual suspects. There's some toss-up games, but I've got them.
I think one game that we might differ on, November 2nd, Minnesota.
Do you haven't beaten Minnesota?
I haven't beaten Minnesota, so I would call that a surprise, and maybe you would also consider it surprising. I've got them losing to Northwestern to finish out the season.
I got them losing to Northwestern also.
Okay, so all right.
I got them beating Michigan State.
All right. Michigan State. I've got them losing to Michigan State. That's kind of where we did. Yep. All right, Indiana. Max Delyden. If Max was going to come in today, I was going to have these boys going undefeated.
They were making the playoff.
They were making the playoff. They were going to lead the way. They weren't going to win the Big Ten championship. They were going to be 12-1 at that point, undefeated in the regular season. They were going to lose the Big Ten championship so that they could host a college football game in Bloomington. But since he didn't show up, I had to keep it realistic. I have the Hoosiers going 4-8 as well.
3-9.
3-9. All right.
They do not win a Big Ten game. It may not be realistic. They've got a couple games that are probably toss-ups, but
I would have had the same identical record as you. However, when it comes to Indiana, Purdue, I would say Purdue has the upper hand. But if you're asking me to pick those, and I don't have a lot of knowledge to go off of, I'm going with my heart. Okay. And my heart is more closely aligned to Indiana more so than Purdue. Iowa, the Hawkeyes last year, representative in the Big Ten. And K-Van Rick, if you want to jump in on any of these, just feel free to do that. Iowa, last year, Big Ten representative in the Big Ten championship, taking on Michigan. Do they repeat their success this year? Record for you, Tyler, is?
10-2.
10-2 again.
10-2.
Okay, we got to go through this. I've got them at 6-6.
Wow,
I know, man. I know, but they kind of got a little stretch there that's tough. All right, let's see. Surprising one. I've got them winning their first 4 games of the season. They've got Illinois State, Iowa State, Troy, Minnesota. They're on the road for Minnesota. Boom, 4-0. Then they go to Ohio State, losing
in the shoe.
Washington.
I got them beating Washington.
See, I might not have, since I just got started on the Big Ten, I might not have, I might have been over-crediting, giving a little bit more credit to Washington than maybe what they deserve because they are depleted. So I would not be surprised at all to see Iowa win that game. Michigan State, I got them winning.
Dub.
Northwestern, I got them winning.
Dub.
Wisconsin?
Loss.
Okay, I've got them losing to Wisconsin as well. Then UCLA, they're on the road. The game's on a Friday. I have them losing because it's that travel is hectic.
I do like. I will say typically if I'm going through like a road week or a road not Saturday game, I typically do give a lot of credit to the home team. I can't put any faith in UCLA right now.
I do not blame you, and the coach did not help that at the Big Ten Media Days in Deshaun Foster. They get a bye week, then they go to Maryland. I've got them losing that game.
Dub.
And then I've got them closing out the season with the loss as well to Nebraska.
So that's the reverse. They're home Friday, so that's I gave Iowa a little credit there.
Yeah, there you go.
They can't not score as little points as they did last season, so there's that. They're going to be probably scoring more points.
See, I think outside of Ohio State, I mean, maybe Washington bounces back, and I think Wisconsin will be a pretty solid team, but like none of those offenses scare me. If I'm an Iowa fan or an Iowa coach going into those games, like I don't see anybody there that's super intimidating.
Kyle Albritton says, hey, did you know UCLA is in Los Angeles? Maybe one of the only things I know about UCLA.
Them in USC. That's all I know about UCLA football. Well,
the upper corner of Los Angeles.
With Chip Kelly leaving to be from their head coach to go be an offensive coordinator, kind of tells me all I need to know about the state of that program.
And to be in the same conference as well, staying in the Big Ten, and he's getting paid pretty handsomely for a coordinator position.
But still.
But yeah, if you're leaving to be a head coach or leaving from being a head coach, going to be an OC, which do you think Ohio State is more dangerous now with Chip Kelly?
I think it's a better fit than Bill O'Brien was.
Mm-hmm. Bill O'Brien's kind of more pro style.
Yeah, and I mean Ryan Day coached under Chip Kelly in New Hampshire, so they have a lot of similarities in their schemes. They're probably going to have a lot of terminology similarities. They know each other pretty well. I think it's a better fit for what they had already kind of built their team to be based on. So I think it's a great fit. But Chip Kelly, I mean, he hasn't won a big game as a head coach ever, really. I mean, he made it to Dalvin Cook fumbled away a playoff game against them in the CFP, and then they got blown out by Ohio State. They lost the BCS game against Cam Newton.
Wait, he was the coach in 2013, right? No,
that may have been Helfrich, actually. He may have been in Philadelphia at that point. Okay. Because that was Mariota and Helfrich, the guy who took over and was a train wreck as well. He just rode Mariota for a couple years. But Chip Kelly has never proven anything as a coach, and not has never proven anything as a coach. He has never won a big game as a head coach. Ryan Day has an iffy record there as well. I was about to say,
they're in the same boat.
And so, they got to prove they can get over that hump. But, I mean, Chip Kelly has always been a pretty good offensive mind, though.
Maryland, what do you got the Terps going here? Okay, did you have something on that? Maryland, what do you got them going here? I've got them going. This one is one that I'm like, I don't know how I ended up here. I would say that they have a favorable schedule. I've got them going 9-3.
I've got them at 6-6.
6-6.
There are a good bit of toss-up games that if they were to win instead of lose or lose instead of win, it's not going to be super surprising.
I've got them losing to Penn State on the road, Oregon on the road, and at Minnesota because I just couldn't give them that many wins in a row. And honestly, I mean, I really root for Coach Loxley, but I wonder how they do now that they don't have Toledo over there, who was silently a really good quarterback for Maryland. Michigan. What do the defending national champions end up going? Hopefully Michigan Eddie's not listening because if so, he hears my record. He might call in. It's not terrible, but it's not what they got used to last year.
I had them at
And there's no Connor Stallions now.
I initially had them at 8-4, and then as I was going through some other projections, I changed it to 9-3.
I'm right there with you. I got them losing to Texas, Oregon, and the final game of the year, Ohio State.
Yep.
Same ones?
Ding, ding, ding.
All right, Michigan State. What does Sparty go in 2024? I've got them at 7-5.
I've got them at 5-7.
Oh, okay. All right. So, what are you looking at? Losses at Maryland and Purdue.
Oh, let's see. I've got them losing. I've got them losing to Maryland. Yeah. I've got them losing to Illinois, Michigan, Iowa, Oregon, and Ohio State.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so good stuff there. 7-5 for me, 5-7 for you. We'll see what the difference looks like at the end of the year. Another team, Michigan State, that you just don't really hear a ton about right now. So hopefully that changes because I know Michigan State Bruce would absolutely love that. Minnesota, what do you got the Golden Gophers going? Are they rowing the boat or are they going to sink the ship this year?
They're rowing all the way to 4-8.
4-8. All right, 4-8 is not exactly terrible. It's worse than what I have, Matt. 5-7.
Okay, so we're in the
for
same,
Minnesota. Yeah,
same
same realm. Opening up the season with North Carolina, that game could be fun, and it could, if they win that game, push them to 6-6 somehow. But they, I wouldn't say that they have a tough schedule, but they have those two game spurts where it's like, man, this is a tough little stretch here at Michigan.
For a team like Minnesota, it's a fairly tough schedule.
I agree with that.
If you got to always kind of look at schedules relatively. You know, like a tough schedule for Alabama and a tough schedule for Minnesota are not the same.
That's true. Outside of Florida, right? Because
Florida's schedule would be tough for anybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's a brutal schedule. All right, let's go to a team that Kyle Albritton loves, his second favorite team. You can see it all over his Facebook. He's a huge Nebraska Cornhuskers fan. In fact, we encourage all Nebraska fans, if you'd like to see Kyle Albritton don your stuff at the fantasy football draft, you could send that to us or just drop it by the office and he will wear it at the fantasy football draft, and he will love it. Nebraska, what do you got the Cornhuskers husking this year?
I got them going bowling.
Bowling,
6-6. Yep.
I think I'm a little too high on them, but I think that when you talk about that schedule being favorable, I've got them at 9-3.
Really?
Those 3 losses are to Ohio State, USC, and Wisconsin.
See, I've got them losing to Iowa. We had already kind of disagreed on that. I've got them losing to Rutgers. I think Rutgers is one of those quiet teams this year that could sneak up on somebody.
Yeah. You think so? Shiano's still there, right? So, I mean, maybe they have I know Caveman Rick would be happy about that, right? I know you're not a Rutgers guy, but it's your area, right?
Yeah, New Jersey State, man. Mercer County, New Jersey, that area. Well, no, that's right. It's, dang it, man. I'm even losing my thought now.
Maricopa County.
No, that's over in Arizona, right?
I have no idea.
Actually, I think I've got them at 7-5, not 6.
I was thinking Princeton. My bad.
You got them at 7-5?
7-5.
Nebraska 7-5. All right, so that's one game better there. I think the whole world is ready for Nebraska, Colorado. Well, not the whole world, but I think that game's going to have some hype to it. Both second-year coaches, Matt Rule and Deion Sanders.
Raiola over there in Nebraska.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola, right.
And Sanders, that'll be a fun, high-profile quarterback.
I think that's what made me give the edge to Nebraska is Dylan Raiola being over there. We don't know if he's going to be what the hype is surrounding him, but we're going to find out. Northwestern, we talked about them to open up the show today. I had them going 1-11, 2-10 last year. They ended up going 8-5, exceeding expectations. So I'd imagine that would be 7-5 regular season, right? 8-5 with their bowl win. I would have to look at their win streak and see how that played out. So Northwestern, I got them at 5-7 this year. A little bit of an upgrade.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. All right. So we'll move. Is there anything that stands out to you about Northwestern on their schedule?
They've got a pretty tough schedule. If you look at that 5-game, even maybe 6-game stretch going from at Maryland on. I mean, they play at Maryland, Wisconsin, at Iowa, at Purdue. Then they've got to bye, and they got to take on Ohio State and at Michigan. That's a pretty, for a team especially like Northwestern, that is a fairly tough, because you're talking, 4 road games in a 6-game stretch. One's a Friday night game, and some of the better teams in their conference.
One thing I will say about their schedule, where it is tough, how you mentioned, they don't have many of those westward trips. They have Washington. They're at Washington, but that's earlier in the season. I think I would rather get those type of games out of the way earlier in the season rather than like just looking at Iowa here where you go Wisconsin and then at UCLA. The good thing is after most of those westward trips, you are going to get a bye week, so you can catch back up on your studies essentially. Ohio State, what do the Buckeyes get in 2024? You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We've got the big dogs of the Big Ten coming up next.
The new app from 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is designed specifically for sports fanatics like you. The sports content you demand is always on. Live stream our national and local sports talk anywhere you go. Reach us on all social media. You can also be a part of the show. Call and text into our studios. Plus, up-to-the-minute weather and traffic maps. The new app from 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is available at the Apple Store and Google Play.
Good evening. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Tuesday. Partly cloudy tonight with very little wind and temps near 81. Tomorrow morning, we will have mostly sunshine and a wind speed of 2 miles per hour and be hot at 88. Possible thunderstorms and some sun in the afternoon and evening and a high 90 with a gentle breeze. Some sun and a chance of thunderstorms Thursday with a temp of 92. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Man, is it hot. Not only is the weather hot, the savings on name brand Western wear at that boot store is sizzling. During their 60th anniversary celebration going on now. Shop the hot deals in air conditioning comfort and be amazed at the tremendous selections of Carhartt work clothes and Western wear available at that boot store. Open Tuesday through Thursday, 9 till 5. Friday and Saturday, 9 until 5:30. Next to Bill Burkey at 15th Street, Panama City. That boot store where God is good all the time.
He doesn't live paycheck to paycheck. He lives transaction to transaction.
I need about $350.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are back in the doghouse. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We are the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. Coming through your speakers is 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida here in Panama City and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. You can call or text us 850-215-6290. We are your home for the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves coverage picks up right at 6 o'clock after the Afternoon Underdogs. First pitch tonight, 7:10 p.m. Bryce Elder going for the Braves. He'll be going up against Joe Ross of the Brewers. We left off talking about the Big Ten. We're going through their schedule and breaking that down. A minimal breakdown, I would say. We already have all of our schedules picked out and everything, and then we just kind of breeze through them because if not, we would never get done with the show. Ohio State is where we left off. What do you got the Buckeyes going in 2024?
11-1.
11-1 in the lone loss?
Austin Stadium against Oregon.
That's going to be a tough one, man.
That is.
You know, the Oregon fans are going to be lit. They're going to be ready. Last time they played, 3 years ago? I believe Oregon got the better of them. Kayvon Thibodeau, I believe, had a huge game in that one as well.
Well, not only that, but Ohio State gets Iowa the week before. So, Iowa's probably going to be pretty physical. That defense
beat them down a little bit.
You know what I'm saying? And then Oregon gets Michigan State on a Friday, so they get a whole extra day of rest against a worse opponent. And they're at home. I think there's a lot of factors that kind of go into it that make you lean Oregon.
Well, not just that, though. They've got UCLA. So, there's not a lot of travel for Oregon leading up to that game. Not as much for Ohio State leading up to it, where they got at Michigan State, then Iowa at the house. So, yeah, I love those picks, and I'm right there with you, 11-1, man. The next team is those Oregon Ducks. What do you have? Are they going undefeated since they're beating Ohio State?
I got them at 11-1 also.
Oh, boy. Who do the Oregon Ducks lose to?
I've got them losing in the big house.
To Michigan.
It's going to be November.
And that's a tough stretch for them, too, because they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row, and 5 of those being played before Michigan.
Yeah, you're getting them on the road up to Michigan in November. At that point, they've beaten Ohio State. They're probably a top 3 team in the country. They're getting a little bit of hype. Do the kids start buying into the clicks a little bit? And that's where a coach like Dan Lanning's really got to earn his money. And I've been a big Dan Lanning fan on this show, but he's got to prove that he can win all these types of games. And if not, until then, you got to pick them to slip up until they don't.
I've got Oregon. So going into the year last year, we did not think that Washington was going to be, unless your name is Max Delyden or you're a Washington Huskies fan, we did not really think that Washington was what they were, what they ended up being, which was a team who was playing in the national championship. I've got, and Oregon lost twice to Washington.
Yep.
Earlier in the season, I thought, it was a letdown for Oregon, in my opinion, losing to Washington, even knowing what we know now. I've got them losing to Wisconsin.
Ooh. I kind of like that one too.
That long stretch of games
on the road,
7 games. Yeah, they're back, and then they're on the road. They're going to be just jumping around. I like Wisconsin and here's the other thing too. Washington. What kind of an offense did they run? It really wasn't all spread out. It was more kind of pro style, control the football. I think Luke Fickell and the Wisconsin Badgers are going to have that same type of an offense. And so I think after being worn down for 7 weeks consecutively, I think Wisconsin sneaks away with a win.
Well, and if you're looking at Oregon's schedule, they fly to UCLA, not bad. They come home and play Michigan State, play Ohio State, but then they go to Purdue, come back home against Illinois, back to Michigan, come home, play Maryland, and go back out to Wisconsin for that game.
Yeah.
That's a good bit of traveling.
You would almost at that point just rather the Purdue game be an away game or the Maryland game be an away game.
And just stay out. Well, just do all their classes virtually. And
come on. Everyone does everything remotely, it feels like these days. So Ohio State and Oregon so far leading the way with records of 11-1. Let's go to another team in this conference that could make some noise. The hype is always around them. Some people call them the Ole Miss of the Big Ten or call Ole Miss the Penn State of the SEC. What record do you have for the Nittany Lions?
I hate it. I really do. I got them at 11-1 too.
3 teams at 11-1.
And I don't know how that tiebreaker gets solved because there is no tiebreaker between Oregon and Penn State.
I would imagine that you would go, so since it's 11-1, would you go straight to point differential or would you go to common opponents?
I don't know how the Big Ten has it
common
set up.
opponents wouldn't matter necessarily if you're all 11-1. I've got them at 10-2, so that's just a shade below. I've got them losing to Ohio State. So then that would be your number one tiebreaker, right? That would be between Ohio State and Penn State. So
then
whoever
Penn State
wins the game.
Then it's. Well, I guess maybe Oregon beat Ohio State beat Penn State. Maybe I don't know.
What you have Ohio? That's who. You're lost to Ohio State. For Ohio State is Oregon.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So
so Ohio State would be over Oregon, and then
Oregon would be over Ohio State. Ohio State would be over Penn State, but there's nothing to connect Penn State back to Oregon.
Yeah, man, that it would be wild. But I've got them losing 2 games. One of those games is to Ohio State, but the first game that they lose is before that. That's on October 12th, and that is because they've got 3 home games in a row. Then they head west, and I'm giving those westward teams for USC in this particular case. I've got USC where, spoiler alert, I've got them going 7-5 this year.
Same.
But I just think this is a game Penn State drops when they really shouldn't be dropping it. Maybe the stakes are a little too high.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's
just funny that you had them losing to USC because you can see where I'm marking my W. Like I start to form an L and then make it into a W because it's like, am I giving USC too much credit here? Am I giving Penn State? It's hard because I didn't want to give either of them more credit than they needed, but I ended up probably doing it for maybe even both. And because I actually did start to mark that down as a loss, but I was like, man, I don't know if I can trust Lincoln Riley and his defense, especially in the Pac-12.
And the Nittany Lions were 10-2 last year. There's no way James Franklin ends up on the hot seat. I mean, he's done a really good job with that program, right?
Yeah, no, I think he's got one of the most, as of now, one of the most favorable schedules in the Big Ten. He doesn't play Michigan. He doesn't play Oregon. He gets Washington and Ohio State at the house. He gets USC and UCLA, but only one of those on the road. No Iowa, which I have as a pretty good team this year. They're pretty strong on defense traditionally anyway. They don't get a ton of the big hitters. I've got Rutgers with a decent record, and they don't play Rutgers either. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the teams I have as winning teams, they don't play.
Yeah.
And so, it sets up super favorably. I would put the floor at maybe 10-2 or 9-3 with this schedule.
Well, who would you say to this point has, actually, we'll just keep rolling, and then I want try to remind me, who would you say has the easiest schedule? And you can use your relative, the teams being relative towards their schedule, all of that good stuff, if you will. But kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I highly doubt we'll get to that in this segment.
I already know who it is.
You already know who it is. Well, let's go to the Boilermakers. Do the Boilermakers make any noise this year? What do you have Purdue going in 24?
I probably am not giving them enough credit. I got them at 3-9.
Ditto. I got them at 3-9 as well. Their wins being Indiana State, Oregon State, which is kind of, we don't know, man. No one's putting any focus on the Pac-2. Who's going to win that championship? No one knows. But yeah, I've got them winning Indiana State, Oregon State, and then Illinois.
I had them at 3-9 last year, and they went 4-8. So I guess that's not a terrible prediction. We're doing all right.
I had them at 7-5 last year. I guess I was being a little bit of a
you're a nice guy.
Kyle Albritton put earlier, a believer. Let's move on to Rutgers. What do you said you got them with a decent record?
So,
I've got Rutgers going 3-9.
So right here, this is the easiest schedule in the Big Ten. No Iowa, no Ohio State, no Michigan, no Oregon, no Penn State. They don't play anybody of the Wisconsin is probably the best Big Ten team they play. And I'm not even saying that's a mean thing to Wisconsin, but they don't play any of the quote unquote top dogs.
Yeah. And we can't consider USC. Is it unfair that we're considering Oregon a top dog in the Big Ten, but not USC?
No. Because of the way they performed last year.
Boom. Love that answer. That's perfect.
That's easy money right
and
there.
concise.
Yeah,
Rutgers for me 3-9, but what do you have them going?
8-4.
8-4. That is a great record for Rutgers, who last year went 6-6. Guess what record I had for Rutgers last year?
What?
3-9.
I had them at 5-7. So
hey, there you go.
But
man.
They're out of conference. Virginia Tech's going to be tough for them, but they've got two pretty easy wins outside of that. Washington, I've got them losing to. I've got them losing to Wisconsin, but Nebraska may be better than what people are expecting, but they've got to prove it a little bit. I've got them beating UCLA again. I said at the top of this, I put zero faith into UCLA. Got them losing to USC, but Minnesota, Maryland, Illinois, and Michigan State, they could easily drop two of those, but those are all winnable games.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the surprise wins. I've got them winning their first two. They got Howard and Akron. But I've got them. It feels like I just gave the bad end of the stick to Minnesota, and anytime I needed to give a team a win, it's just all right. Golden Gophers, you're going down.
Keep chopping wood, yo.
Yeah, exactly.
Rutgers.
All right, UCLA, UCLA. What do you have the boys in baby blue going?
3-9.
That's 2 games worse than me. I got them going 5-7. They start the season out against Hawaii on the road. That's a little weird, right?
A little weird.
Good for Hawaii, though. Good for them to be able to get that type of an opponent over there.
I've got them beating Max's Hoosiers, and I've got them beating Fresno State in the year.
I've got them beating Fresno State, which I don't like that game being at the end of the year.
It's kind of weird also. It's a weird schedule.
Who is USC playing at the end of the year? Notre Dame. All right.
That's fair.
Let's move that one back somewhere in the middle of the season. Obviously not for this year, but futuristically speaking, can we just make USC and UCLA rivals, or do we just push the envelope on Oregon and make it USC and Oregon, or do we keep it Oregon and Washington? What would you prefer there?
I'd probably prefer Oregon, Washington. They have been longtime rivals, kind of keep them together coming over. And that I don't think USC and Oregon really care a whole lot about each other.
Yeah, and Oregon, Washington's like a border war. UCLA is too far away. Like USC. So
it's a good point. I was kind of just thinking about who the best teams were.
With Tennessee, I would say Tennessee, LSU would probably almost the equivalent of USC, Oregon. They were both in the same conference,
but they don't hate each other.
They don't really care enough about each other for it to really matter.
Until they're playing. It's on and popping at that point. 3-9 or 5-7. I've got UCLA going. We'll move on to the other California team. If you didn't know, UCLA and USC are both in Los Angeles.
Seriously?
I heard that last week at Big Ten Media Days, according to the UCLA head coach Deshaun Foster, who was a good running back over there for the Carolina Panthers. I've got USC going 7-5, opening up the season with a loss to LSU, losses at Michigan, home against Wisconsin. Wait, how? Yeah, okay, Penn State was the team that I had losing to USC. I've got them losing to, I got them losing to Penn State, Maryland, or Rutgers.
I think Penn State USC beating Penn State.
That's what I was thinking, right? That's why I was kind of started. Yeah, I have USC. I have USC beating Penn State. Okay. I'm almost reading the L's as W's. I'm reading everything backwards here. It's just a little case of dyslexia. It goes away in a little bit. Notre Dame. I've got them losing to Notre Dame as well. So they do get a win against Washington. So
there's that. Notre Dame, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, and LSU for me.
7-5. Man, I wish it was 5-7 so they could
fire Lincoln Riley.
Not even that, just miss a bowl game. But I don't think that Lincoln Riley. I think once he gets a taste of this Big Ten football and the brand that is, I think Lincoln's out. I think Lincoln's out after this year. Be it he gets fired. I doubt he gets fired. I think that he just leaves for either the NFL as like an OC or something like that.
I don't know if there's a team big enough there, but like I think going back to the Big 12 is or the ACC maybe.
Going back to the Big 12 would be the wildest thing, though, because it's like, all right, you leave Oklahoma for USC. You knew what was going on with USC. You bring Caleb Williams over there with you, and I mean, I guess, was he He couldn't have been escaping Oklahoma and the future for them going to the SEC, knowing that, and maybe he felt like USC was going to be a better product in the Big Ten than Oklahoma.
But the
and
USC
the
thing hadn't been announced when the Oklahoma thing was. I think there was a year behind.
Okay, it was a year behind.
He got there, and then that's when then at that point, though, it's hard to leave you. I mean, USC's a top-tier job, great money.
And you got the number one quarterback in the nation as far as last year goes. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, 2 more teams here. What do you got the Huskies of Washington going?
I've got them bouncing back from, everything they lost, 8-4.
I've got them at 8-4 as well. Losses to Michigan, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Notre Dame. Wait, golly, I got to pick this thing up.
Oregon, Penn State, USC, and Iowa. I've got them beating Michigan, actually.
Michigan, USC, Penn State, and Oregon for me.
Yeah, I've got them beating Michigan. Michigan's got to go to Washington. Michigan's got a lot to replace. I can see that going either way.
I'm over here looking at our 2023 Big Ten schedule, looking for what I had Washington at last year. But I don't even know if we're gonna dust off the old Pac-12 and look at how we did in the final year of the Pac-12. Our final school to look at in the Big Ten, and that is the Wisconsin Badgers. I've got them going a very healthy and respectable 10-2.
Really? I got them at 9-3.
Okay, so hey, we're pretty close there. One of Wisconsin's losses, which would put them in the running with Ohio State, Oregon, and if your predictions are correct, Penn State, because one of those losses are to Alabama early in the season. Now, they've got Alabama in a true road game here. This is, I think, Kalen DeBoer's first year, this game could be more interesting than what people want to give it credit for.
And I mean, Wisconsin's got an easy schedule, Western Michigan and South Dakota, so it's not like, they can really prepare a lot for this Alabama game going into the season. But yeah, no, I've got them losing to. So that one could get a little more interesting. This is the first big road game I feel like they've played out of conference and not neutral site in a while.
Yeah, I'm really trying.
I mean, I know they played Penn State earlier in the Nick Saban tenure as far as a true road game, I think.
I was going to say Virginia Tech, but that was
a Chick-fil-A game, I believe.
Yeah.
Clemson was. They played Florida State and Jackson.
I didn't think he's gone north of like the Carolinas for a road game pretty much ever, Nick Saban.
I don't know.
When he was with Alabama.
They played USC in the Cotton Bowl one year. I think they played Miami one year in a neutral site.
USC, that was the game that Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and they came out like they were dogs on a leash and lost like 52-7.
Well, I think that was the exact score, 52-7. And I remember Jalen Hurts getting checked into the game, fumbles on the first play, and I'm like, man, this kid sucks. And then he comes right back. It's like, okay, this kid's pretty good. That just goes to show you the perseverance that Jalen Hurts has. And I believe first true freshman in a long time to start there for Alabama. So that was.
I also got him losing to Penn State and Oregon Penn State, Oregon, and Bama is who I got him losing to.
I've got him beating Oregon.
Really?
Yeah,
that's right.
With Oregon, that's Oregon's lone loss. So beating Oregon, and then I've got them losing to Penn State. So their 2 losses are Penn State and Alabama.
That does make a really I guess in your scenario you don't have Penn State going there, but I mean either way you got a three-way tie.
Yeah, I know that one will be interesting how that plays out as well. And here's another thing that's interesting is, and another thing I didn't take into account, but I think that it should. Anytime that a team plays Alabama, and this is a new era of Alabama, but after about the second year of Alabama, when you play Bama early in the season, it's like your season's over with at that point. You know what I mean? Like Like, and it's not every single time, but what I'm getting at is they're so physical with you. They tend to hurt your quarterback, you know? And so you're just like, your season kind of breaks down. They like break your spirit to an extent. I would go back and look at every single, but you know, like Virginia Tech, Florida State, USC, a lot of those teams had really high hopes going into the season. And then after it's said and done, you look back, hindsight 50-50, and it's like, oh, those teams weren't,
they ended up not being,
or they just got the spirit beat out of them.
They played Florida State twice because they played Florida State Saban's first year against Bobby Bowden.
Florida State beat them.
And then
Jacksonville.
They played in the Francois year when it was like a top 3 matchup.
Right, exactly.
That's
so that's what it takes is for Alabama, they got to take your quarterback out, baby. Roll Tide. But yeah, the reason why I brought that point up is though because after Bama, they've got a bye week. Then they go on the road to USC. What we've been seeing so far to this point with the Big Ten schedules is they give you that bye week after you play a westward team on the road. So interesting to note there. And Kyle Albritton, if you're wondering, Chef Ross did pay us $5 a piece to have the good records for Wisconsin, and you can do the same. We're doing the SEC next week, and we'll take $10 since it's SEC, and that's a very hard schedule for Florida.
It just means more.
It just means more, and it also costs more.
I was going to say, that's a little bit of a tough stretch for Wisconsin. I mean, on the road at USC, coming home Purdue, at Rutgers, at Northwestern, Penn State, at Iowa. I mean, that's a lot of traveling and, you know, some physical teams there.
If they live up to this record, I'll be as surprised as anyone. I'll be as surprised as my pen when it was jotting these numbers down. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, our final segment of the afternoon coming up next.
ESPN Northwest Florida, the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Cowbells and swamps, the Aggies romp, and Bevo's in the SEC. How'd you like it, Paul?
Yeah, I'm surprised we ended up keeping Taylor's version over yours.
Thanks. What would you rate my song out of 10?
I'd go 10 out of 10.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul Feinbaum, weeknights, 6 to 10 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Take control of your adventure and discover the new Kia at Bill Burr Kia. Our SUV family is built for all-in adventures and endless possibilities. Whether you're traveling on the highways or off-road, you'll do it with grace and grit. Now offering 1.9% APR for up to 48 months on the purchase of a new 2024 Kia Sorento or a new 2024 Kia Sportage. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. Bill Burr Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. The road is yours in an all-new Kia from Bill Burr Kia.
Offer from Kia Finance America for the purchase of a new 2024 Kia Sorento or 2024 Kia Sportage with $2,165 per 1,000 financed at 48 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Burr Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers must take delivery from dealer stock through 9/3/24.
The battle for the East continues to heat up, and your Atlanta Braves are battling back and looking for some big wins.
Sends one soaring to right field. Back to the chop house. 3-0 Braves.
Tonight, don't miss Matt Olson and your Atlanta Braves as they look for a big National League win in Milwaukee as they take on the Brewers.
Braves coverage begins at 6 after the Afternoon Underdogs. First pitch 7:10. Carrier your home for the Braves, ESPN Northwest Florida.
We don't sell the steak.
You can stir this all up.
We sell the sizzle. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Very spicy.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are back. Final segment of the day for the Afternoon Underdogs. It's David Hayes with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Atlanta Braves coming your way. Coverage starting at 6 and first pitch at 7:10. If you ain't got first pitch 7:10. If you ain't got nothing going tonight at 7, Frank Nelson, Team Dynasty versus the Chiefs for a little flag football playoff game. Should be a lot of fun, man. Maybe doing a little scouting after the game as well for our possible opponents.
David Stallions over here.
David Stallions, son. Oh, man, there's a documentary coming out soon. The Connor Stallions is one, but there's one that I'm like, okay, this is one that I'm really ready to watch. Come on, brain, work for me. Steve McNair. Yes. That I forget. It's about his death, essentially, which is, from what I've read about it in the past, very wild situation.
It was like a murder, suicide,
I believe it was like a lover. Got him.
Gonna be crazy.
That's one, man, I am really excited about. There's just so many documentaries or sports things coming out that it's like they come at you like, bang, these guys need to all get together and figure out like a schedule.
Get some timing.
Yeah.
And they got to do them right too when they do them. Like, what was the
Swamp Kings?
The Florida Gator one that totally just
I knew exactly where you was
didn't
going.
even pay attention to the whole Aaron Hernandez thing or all the other scandals, the stealing, all the other junk that they had going on over in Florida. And instead, they were just throwing them roses the whole time.
Well, but and while that's true, and a lot of Florida fans and football fans in general did want to see more of the negative of that Florida Gators time with Urban Meyer, which I have no issue with that.
In every story, like when you want to throw all these accolades and flowers to guys like Tom Brady and talk about all his championships, you can't do that without talking about the negative stuff too. You got to give everybody both.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, down the middle. With Aaron Hernandez, though, that one's. I wonder if they let that stuff out because I believe there's already a documentary on.
Yeah, but there wasn't a lot of like the Pouncies and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They could have, like, trust me, and it's stuff that people want to know.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Your time.
I feel like Urban Meyer. Kyle Albritton was joking around like Chef Ross paid us because he's a Wisconsin guy. I feel like Urban Meyer had something to do with like, man, I got to get back in this coaching game somehow. The only way this is going to happen, we talk about the positives of what went down at Florida. So, but yeah, schedule these documentaries out a little bit further in between because it's really hard to binge watch documentaries, right?
No, it's just a different like flow than like a show or movie.
Well, and you like with shows, at least for myself, and this might be why my movie and TV recollection is horrible. I tend to not pay attention as much. But with documentaries, you really can't do that because then you end up missing. Now, I'll have it on in the background and stuff sometimes when there's documentaries that's like, oh, I want to know about this, but I don't like care to sit here and pay attention. And then there's ones that's like, all right, you got like The Last Dance is one. That's a binge watch.
Yeah.
At least it was for me. The Last Dance, but that came in such a clutch time. Like, I don't know if you drop that. If you drop that in a month like now, 10 episodes, and it leaks in a college football season, you might have people just watching like the first 6 episodes, even though it's Michael Jordan, so I'm probably wrong about that. But with that happening in a lapse in the sports world, that was a perfect time.
Marketing. Somebody did their homework.
So get with The Last Dance, guys, y'all, and figure out some schedules for these daggum documentaries. Let's see any more trades in the Major League Baseball world that we're liking. Alden Gonzalez reports the Padres are going to be getting Martin Perez. Jeff Passan, the Baltimore Orioles are getting Gregory Soto from the Philadelphia Phillies for right-handed pitching prospect Seth Johnson. Nationals didn't trade Kyle Finnegan. He's going to be staying in Washington. Jamestown, I don't want to see the ones that are not getting moved. Cardinals getting Sean Armstrong for the Rays, from the Rays for Dylan Carlson. And the Dodgers, I thought Kevin Kiermaier's retiring after this year, so he went to the right team. If he go out with a World Series ring, Kevin Kiermaier to the Dodgers from the Blue Jays. We mentioned Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers. Michigan Eddie was spot on at the beginning of the show today. And the Baltimore Orioles, this is a championship type move, especially if Eloy Jimenez can be what he's expected to be. Baltimore Orioles getting Eloy Jimenez. IKF, Isaiah Kiner Falefa's headed to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So how about the Pirates getting in on the action, Caveman Rick? Is that something that you like to see? As Skeens had a tough outing yesterday evening against a tough team in the Houston Astros.
Yeah, the last couple of times he's going out hasn't been the greatest for him. He's got
the time before he was like 8 1/3 inning, right? And
yeah, but he takes the L, though, but it's like if he would have gotten pulled and they had, another pitcher in there, maybe they don't give up that home run. Maybe he ends up not taking that L, So you kind of wondered, like, everything was so great up to the All-Star game, right? And now we got the All-Star break, and now it's kind of cooled off a little bit. And he hasn't, been the same form of a guy he's been. So kind of makes you wonder a little bit.
Well, what's making me wonder is what is going to happen with the Braves season. I wonder if Alex Anthopoulos really believes in the true World Series aspirations of this 2024
I don't
Braves
think
team.
he does, because if he did, he would have made some bigger moves and would have made a splash or two.
Right, and
you don't have what it takes right now.
And I'm content with that as a Braves fan. Like, knowing where you stand, knowing your role, like, go for
you don't have anything to give up. You don't have no farm. You got no prospects. What are you going to do?
That's another great point as well. I'm content with it. Do I like it? No, but I am content with it because, hey, sometimes you're just, and you never know, though. It's still baseball. The Diamondbacks weren't expected to have the run that they had last year. The pitching staff could be closer to healthy as we get into the month of September. Ozzy Albies should be back in September. We'll see what happens. I'm not disappointed. I don't like it, but hey, it is what it is. We'll see, and we'll talk more with Sam Peebles, I'm sure, this week to find out how he feels about the Atlanta Braves. What's the biggest thing going on in the world of college football for you, Tyler?
Oh man, we were just talking about the break. We're three Tuesdays away from having real football to talk about. Actually just saw a number that EA college football has already made over $500 million in revenue in like 2 weeks or whatever it's been since really. $500 million. They were saying like 150 would be considered a success, and they've already tripled that plus.
What game is next to take a 10-year hiatus to get this type of?
I don't know. I don't think any game could quite. I mean, Madden would have to be the closest, but even that, I don't know.
Well, see, if Madden took off, though, they would get and it's not really feasible for some of these video game companies to take a year off. But like 2K, someone would pick up that license somehow or another. I still wish that there was not a monopoly on licenses. I wish that 2K could make a NFL game and Madden could make a game, and all of these other companies could push each other to make video games better, because then the consumer can be like, oh, I like this part of this game and that part of that game or whatever. Just like for a long time, I'm sure there was a lot of people until 2K really took off that were either a Live or 2K guy, or like NBA Live or NBA 2K, or maybe you got both, because NBA Live for a little stretch there was actually a much cheaper version than what 2K was. So yeah, how's your time been with college football 25? I don't think that we've talked to you since you've owned it yet.
It's been pretty good. It's, I've managed to get a few seasons under my belt now, playing some. I typically only play offense when I play. Just it makes the games go by a little quicker.
It makes them go by a lot quicker. Yeah.
Playing defense sucks anyways. But
it's definitely tough, man. There's no doubt about that. So SEC next week.
And we got spring or fall practice starting this week in a lot of places. This week or the beginning of next week. So we should actually have some real practice reports coming in. Obviously, then you start getting a few real injuries and things like that. But we're finally on the doorstep, man.
Man, I cannot wait for that first game. I believe we're 25 days away from week 0, Florida State, Georgia Tech.
Can we go ahead and just ruin Georgia will be 12-0 next week? Should I go ahead and just, I don't know. I'll probably put them there, but go ahead and just spoil.
All right, 12-0 for Georgia. Lock it in. Lock it in.
Call your Vegas guy.
Kiss of death is what he just gave him.
Yeah, no doubt. 12-0 last year.
We did the inside drive. We've been doing a SEC, and whenever Jay's in the building with us, we've been doing an SEC team every week, and I think we did Georgia, or not every week, every day. We did Georgia sometime last week. I believe I actually had them running 12-0 or 11-1 with a heartfelt pick loss to Bama.
Well, and like Josh Pate was talking about, they play at least 4 teams that are going to be rated like the top 12 all the way from Athens.
And you can never predict injuries.
You can never predict injuries, rivalry games too. So, I mean, they've got a fairly, especially for all the people complaining about their schedule last year being such a cakewalk, quote unquote. Yeah. Like, they actually have one of the tougher schedules in probably all of college football this year.
How do you like that as a fan? Would you rather have the cakewalk knowing that you're the quote unquote cakewalk, feeling almost 95% confident you're going to go 12-0, or do you like having those games that Like, at least, even if they don't pan out on the field, at least feel like they're going to be a competitive game.
I mean, when you're a team expecting to, at this point, compete for a championship, like Georgia rightfully is, I mean, like, you don't go into a game against, like, Kentucky being super excited, because if the game's close, it's like, why are we playing so poorly? Or, like, why is this game close? It shouldn't be. But if you beat them by 30, it's like, okay, that was fun, but we beat them by 30.
All the negatives are amplified.
It's only
when you're
negatives.
great.
You know, there's no, like, oh, yeah, well, we beat them by 40, we should have. Or we beat them by 40 instead of 30, so that was a good performance.
Yeah.
Plus, how elated do you get when you know you're going into a game that you know you should just be stomping the hell out of that team, and you do beat them like 50-3? I mean, like, I don't feel as good when I know my team is going to.
It depends on who it is. Like, if it's like Mississippi State, whatever, it's Mississippi. But like, doing it to TCU, that was a lot of fun. Doing it to Florida State was a lot of fun, just because I know some Florida State fans. Like, even though that was expected, right?
Yeah.
Or like doing it to Florida. If Florida's 1-8 or whatever going into our game, and we're favored by 42 points, we beat them by 42. I'm gonna love every 42 of those points. It just really depends on the like beating Tennessee Tech by 50 points is not fun.
Yeah.
But like beating a rival or beating a team that you know a fan of, it's fun.
The one thing I'll say about those smaller market teams, or those lower tier teams like Tennessee Tech, is that you get to see some of the guys that you probably won't see for the rest of the season. So those first 4 non-conference games, or however it ends up playing out, SEC primarily normally has one cupcake game.
It's preseason.
Later
You're
on.
just showing the rest of your bench. Seeing what else kind of talent.
Well, you're right, but it's one of those situations. Like, this wasn't necessarily against a non-conference team, but when Tua first came into play against Vanderbilt, and he hit this little spinning pat, like he spun around. I'm like, what is this kid doing? When he threw it up into the air, and it was a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. I'm like,
okay, well.
all right, let me see a few more of those. And that was
But he got away with it.
That was Manziel-ish. You know what I mean? It was one of those where I remember it was like 50% of the passes Johnny Manziel threw. I'm like, what are you doing? Golly, another touchdown, man.
And we're throwing to Mike Evans. That makes it a little bit easier.
Absolutely, man.
Crabtree was another one, wasn't he?
Crabtree was Texas Tech, and that was before Johnny Manziel. But yeah, there's so for you as a Georgia fan, which of the rivalries, which team do you hate the most?
It's probably Florida.
Probably Florida?
Yeah, it's Florida. I mean,
has that cooled off for you lately since it's like not been competitive?
Nah. I still love beating them by like 60 points. Like if we could beat them by 80 points every game, like that, I'm okay.
That's the same with me in Dallas. Like in the NFL, like it's always going to be.
Well, like you spur your own Georgia in the 90s, and then growing up in Florida made it a little bit worse.
We are out of time for another Tuesday where we have plenty of tangents with Tyler Bishop. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. We're out for today. Coach James Hale Show is going to be live at 7. Inside Drive back at 11. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 4. Your Atlanta Braves are coming up next. Just remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.
Do you suffer from political talk radio fatigue?
We know that under the 49% rate, the U.S.
Tune into the most fun and exciting new radio show on the Gulf Coast. It's The Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey.